Hey guys, it's Aman
and Christina
from Our Rich Journey. Today is a very special show. I mean, I say that all the time, but this one is really exciting because today we are going to talk about our 10 stages of financial independence. If you have been watching our channel, you know that we are right there at financial independence. We can see it in the distance and we are just about to cross it. And so today we are going to talk about the stages that we've gone through to get to this point, to being able to call ourselves financially independent.
Now, this process of getting so close to financial independence is really what it is. It's a process that consists of several stages, and we are getting closer to financial independence. And the reason why we know this is because we have a financial independence number, and we have been tracking that number in order to get where we are right now.
And having that number in mind is very important because when we first calculated our number, it was this huge financial independence number. And we would see it on the horizon and say, we are never going to get there. But we were able to break it down into incremental pieces to make it feel more achievable. And so today we want to talk about why everyone should have a financial independence number and why you should break it down into stages. And by sharing how we have gone through each stage, hopefully it will inspire you to continue to move towards your financial independence number.
So before we get into the stages, let's briefly explain how you can actually calculate your financial independence number. So you start by calculating your anticipated expenses, your year-long expenses. And once you get that number, you multiply that by 25. That number times 25 is your financial independence number, and that's the number you want to reach in order to become financially independent. So let's use actual numbers. Let's say you've calculated your annual expenses and that equates to $40,000 a year. Now $40,000 times 25 is $1 million. That means your FI or your financial independence number is $1 million. This is the amount of money that you need to have in assets or investments in order to reach your financial independence number.
So when people talk about financial independence, if you are not familiar with investing, it's really hard to kind of wrap your head around this theory. But I'll use our Robinhood portfolio as an example. If you look at our Robinhood portfolio, we right now are collecting a dividend from that portfolio of about 7% annually. So if we grew that portfolio to $1 million and we took out 7%, in fact, we wouldn't even need the 7%. We only took out 4%, the portfolio would still be growing because we're collecting 7% in dividends, but we're only spending 4% of that 7. So the portfolio is actually still going up. Well, this theory of financial independence is based off of exactly that. You have a stock portfolio that grows with appreciation and from dividends, and all you're taking out is 4%. And because the average portfolio, the average stock market portfolio grows about 7% a year, you are not depleting that portfolio.
So now if you've watched some of our other videos, we explain in more detail the concept of the 4% rule. And you'll also know that we don't just have a Robinhood account. That's a very, very tiny amount of our investment portfolio. So the idea here is that we're investing in other types of investments and we are very close to reaching financial independence.
So please check out those other videos to understand more about financial independence and how we plan to live off of the portfolios that we talk about in those other videos. But let's talk about the stages of financial independence. Because when we first started this journey, we started at negative. We had negative assets. That means we had a net worth that was below zero.
All right, so stage 1 of financial independence is where you have a net worth negative. That means that your debt equates to more than your actual assets.
Now you're probably wondering, why is this stage 1 of financial independence? Well, this is the point where you realize what you're trying to achieve. When you sit down and write down all of your assets and your debts and you realize that you're negative, that is a point where you're actually starting your financial independence. It's coming to the realization of where you're at.
Now, after you've come to this realization that you want to strive towards financial independence, the second stage is where your net worth is zero.
So net worth zero is when your debts and assets are equal. And this is for people that are living paycheck to paycheck, where they get money and they spend it to service their debt. Most Americans are either here or net worth negative.
The third stage is where you're net worth positive by $1. Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but like Aman said, most people are stuck at stage 1 and stage 2. When you're net worth positive by $1, that means that your assets are greater than your debt by at least $1.
It's really the seed. That $1 is the seed to grow a money tree. So just being net worth positive, that means that you are on the right track. And number 4 is having a net worth of $10,000. Now, this is such an exciting point because round numbers are very psychological. You are very motivated when you add up all of your debts and assets and you see that you are positive by $10,000. Now, it's important to remember that we're talking about net worth, which means that you can still have debt, but what we're saying is that your assets are more than your debt. You see, you're trying to get to a point where your assets are growing faster than your debt.
Now, phase 5 is where your net worth grows to $50,000. Now, we gave an example at the beginning of this video where someone needed to save $1 million in order to reach financial independence. Once you get to this phase where your net worth is $50,000, you've actually saved enough money to live for 1 year based off of your living expenses.
So when we say that you have enough money to live off of 1 year, let's say, worst case scenario, you had to sell everything, pay off your debts, and the net worth that was left was that $50,000. That would be the $50,000 that you could live off of. So when we're talking about financial independence, it's this money that if you had to live off of it, this is what would be left. And the 6th stage is when your net worth is 10% of your financial independence number. So in the example of someone whose FI number is $1 million, 10% of that would be $100,000. And $100,000 means that if you lost your job tomorrow, you are financially independent for 2.5 years.
So I just want to stop and really focus on what Aman just said right here. At this 6th stage, this is why it's so important to understand financial independence and what your financial independence number is, and to break it down into stages. A lot of people see this long journey and having to reach a certain number at the end, but when you're breaking it down into stages, at this 6th stage, if you break it down, you can understand that you can actually live for 2.5 years with no job, no income coming in. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. There's so much you can do at this stage. If there's a parent that wants to stop and homeschool their kids or take care of their kids, if you only want to live on one income, if you want to pursue a different career, you have so much freedom associated with being able to reach this stage.
I also like this stage because you can walk around your office with some swag. If somebody acts up, you say, I don't need this job. I got 2.5 years worth of living expenses in the bank. But seriously though, it gives you that freedom to be able to make choices in life. Too many of us don't have choices. We have to go to work every single day because we are living paycheck to paycheck. But imagine having 2.5 years worth of living expenses in assets that you can walk away from a job without anyone telling you anything.
Stage 7 is where your net worth is 25% of your financial independence number. Now, if we're looking at the person that needs to reach $1 million in order to reach financial independence, this particular person would have to have a net worth of $250,000. Now, if you break that number down, you'll see that that number would allow someone to live for 6 years based off of that number alone with no job and no other assets coming in.
So getting to 25% of your FI number, that is a huge milestone, and you should certainly celebrate that. But you know what? When you're at that level, and we're gonna show you guys this, as you start to move into the next phases, it works like investing. It's like compound interest, because that 25 turns into 50, turns into 75 very, very fast, and it did for us. And stage 8 is when your net worth is 50% of your financial independence number. This is huge because you get so much confidence when you get to this number, and we are speaking from experience. When we got to 50% of our financial independence number, we knew we were gonna make it. We were so focused, but you can almost get a little overwhelmed by this because when you're halfway there, you tend to wanna cheat. So you need to really be focused at this point. Stay on your plan. Don't do things silly like quit your job too early or start to take on more debt. You are halfway there.
And stage 9 is where your net worth is 75% of your FI number. Now, this is a huge accomplishment. This means that if you had 75% of your FI in investments, in the stock market, for example, and you never touched that money and you never invested again in it, it would actually double over the course of 7 years.
So what Christina said is powerful. That is the power of compound interest. That means when you're at 75% of your FI number, in 7 years, your money would double. You would reach financial independence and not have to do anything. But what is powerful is when you get to 75, you are still contributing. And this is what we're talking about. And this is what happened to us. When we got to 75%, we were just a matter of years away from getting to 100% because we were still contributing to our portfolio. And number 10, the final stage to your FI number is when your net worth and your assets are 100% of your FI score. This is such a sweet moment for you, and we are so close. If there's someone that is 95, 96, 97% of the way, it's very hard to go to work and not just, you know what, today's my last day. But don't do that. I mean, you can if you want to, you're almost there. But when you get there, it's gonna be a very sweet, sweet moment, and you will be surprised at how fast you get there. So those are our 10 stages of financial independence. We have been on this journey for what felt like a very long time, but when we go back and look at it, it actually happened a lot faster than we thought it would. I mean, when we got really intentional about financial independence, it only took us about 5 years. Now, we had already had a head start because we were already investing our money, we were already buying real estate, but the difference was we got intentional. We got more focused on these numbers and going through those milestones. So you guys can do the same. In fact, by watching this video, you have the advantage that we didn't have. You have a guide. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and join the journey.